History happened everywhere. A random country and a random time with a topic pulled from the hat. Then a week for one of us to dive into the internet to find out all that we can. Welcome to...
History happened everywhere.
Hi, I'm Ryan Weir, and this is Pete Goddard.
Greetings.
Hello. So, this week, Pete, it's your turn to enlighten me about all the history that you've learned this week.
Yes, I started smug on this one, Ryan, and I soon was disillusioned about how much information I would be able to find. But I think I've got some interesting stuff for you.
Before we start, let's remind ourselves what it was that you got on the Dersolator last week. Doop-a-doop-a-doo, Dersolator. Right, what do you want to know first? Time, country, or theme?
No, I want to know the country first.
Okay, so the country is... Portugal.
Oh, yeah, I'm good with that. I know Portuguese people. I've got connections.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, very good. What do you want to know next? Time?
Time, yeah, time.
Okay, so Portugal in AD 300 to 400.
Yeah, which is totally fine.
It is, right?
No, it's not fine,
Come
Ryan.
on, Romans are going on around that time.
Well, I'll tell you next week. Stop speculating.
All right, well, and the theme is war.
Oh, yeah, wars are universal. I'm fine. At least it wasn't like ecology or something.
Yeah, I don't think we have ecology as a theme. All right, so welcome back to the hot seat, Pete.
Yes, thank you. Glad to be here, Ryan. Like I said before, a little challenging this week, but I did have a lot of help from a chap called Dr. Fear.
Wait, for real?
For reals. I sent an email to a guy called Andy Fear, who's a lecturer in classics at the University of Manchester.
Nice.
And he was super helpful, so massive shout out to you, Dr. Fear.
Dr. Fear.
Also for not becoming a supervillain, which you could have done very easily.
Yeah, that'd be slightly terrifying.
So yes, all credit to Andy Fear on this, but I think we've got some good stuff for you.
Nice, this is great. Okay, cool. So where do we start?
We start in Portugal, sir.
Right, where's
This is part of the Iberian Peninsula, which you probably know as the sticky out bit just beneath Britain at the end of Europe. So Spain and Portugal constitute that lump that sticks out from the Mediterranean into the Atlantic.
Oh, okay. Right, yes, of course, because Portugal's right next to Spain, right?
Yeah, I mean, it looks like one thing, but there's a whole other little country carved out there.
Yeah.
They are not going to thank me for saying that.
No.
You're going to wonder how big it is, aren't you?
That's the usual thing that I want to know.
It's quite small. That's less than half of a UK. Sixth of a
I'm
France.
not even going to ask. I'm not even going to ask at this point. Unless you're going to give it to me.
1/6 of a France in area.
1/6 of a France.
Yeah, pretty thin population as well. They've got 10 million people, which is like
That's not much,
greater
is it?
London, really.
Yeah.
We got 2.5 times the geography, but we're 6 times as many people as that.
Wow. Okay, cool.
Portugal facts. It is the oldest nation state on the Iberian Peninsula, which is a thin boast because that's just them and Spain, I think.
Right, okay.
But that's what the internet was very proud of. But apparently it's also one of the oldest nation states in Europe.
Yeah.
Can you name any famous Portuguesers?
Portuguesers.
Yeah.
I want to say Christopher Columbus, but I don't think he was.
Oh, you're not far off, though. Vasco da Gama was one. He was a guy who connected the Atlantic to the Indian Ocean. So It was a land of explorers. And Columbus, I think, set out from Portugal.
That's why I've connected the two.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
Also, more modernly...
Cristiano Ronaldo.
Correct. And Jose Mourinho. So
oh, yeah, cool.
They do a good line.
Jose Mourinho. Don't want to correct you, but yeah.
I consider myself corrected. And if you are willing to stretch it a bit, Nelly Furtado is a Portuguese Canadian.
Let's stretch it a little bit.
Okay.
Portuguese Canadian.
Yeah.
Nice.
So products of Portugal. Can you name me any products of Portugal? Port, exactly, from the town of Porto. And also famous for its cork. The Algarve produces the best cork in the world.
So from cork trees, right?
Exactly, it's the bark of a tree.
Okay.
Do you want a fascinating cork fact?
I want a fascinating cork fact.
A bit of a diversion from our core topic, but Cork is used in spaceships. It's an incredible heat insulator. So when a rocket ship comes through the atmosphere, it experiences temperatures of over 1,000 degrees.
Right.
So they pop a bit of cork in, about somewhere between just 1.5 centimetres and 2.5 centimetres.
Yeah.
And that is enough to insulate that spacecraft from the spread of the flames.
See, I thought you were going along the lines of when they re-enter Earth's orbit and then they crash land in the ocean, that the cork allows them to just sort of bob along on the surface waiting for people to come and pick them up.
That's a bonus feature. But yeah, it's actually used even today in spacecraft as a heat insulator. It's that good.
Wow, very cool.
There you go. Cork fact.
Cork fact.
So Portuguese is a language, obviously, or it has a language,
Yeah.
which is Portuguese.
Yep.
It's the 6th most commonly spoken language in the world.
Okay.
I think this is a legacy of the colonialism and particularly Brazilians, with whom there are an enormous number.
I was going to say, because only 10 million people in Portugal, and it's the 6th most spoken language in the world.
They get out there I think largely because of Brazil, to be really honest with you.
How many people in the world? 7 billion or something?
Just loads of them. Absolutely loads. They're everywhere.
A sixth of that speaks the language that only 10
No,
million
not a sixth of it. It's the 6th most spoken.
Oh, yes, good point.
So don't get too excited. But Portuguese, I have had described to me, and I agree with this, it sounds a bit like Spanish spoken with a Russian accent.
Okay. Trying to think of an example. Could you give me one?
I can very much give you an example, Ryan, because my good friend Inez kindly recorded this message for us.
Okay.
Hoje, como já adivinharam, vamos falar do melhor país do mundo, Portugal, é claro. E vamos falar de Portugal durante o período romano. Quero, desde já, pedir desculpa por todos os erros que o Pete e o Ryan vão partilhar convosco, porque podem ter a certeza que vão.
There you go.
My name got mentioned. I heard my name.
It surely did.
In amongst all of that
Do you
Russian.
want me to translate that for you with my brilliant Portuguese? What she said was, today we will be looking at Portugal, the best country in the world, during the late Roman period. Sorry for all the mistakes these idiots are about to make.
Oh, really? Excellent.
So thank you,
Also
Inez.
very true. Like, prophetically true. Prophetic about our pathetic.
So that's Portugal, sticking out. It's holidays, golf courses, is what you think about a lot, I think.
It is. Yep, and football.
Let's go back in time. Time period, the Italians are Roman all over the map.
That's good.
Right?
That's good, yeah.
Thank you very much.
I'm not going to laugh, but I'm going to recognise that was good.
But before we stick in Europe, let's get a bit of a global view. In 317 AD, so we're talking 300 to 400. In 317 AD, Tartar warriors broke through the Great Wall of China.
Right.
I tried to write a Tartar control joke there.
Yeah, some sort of dental.
I didn't really succeed. So if you could think of your own Tartar control joke, that would be great.
Right.
In India, you've got the Gupta dynasty, which is sort of quite a golden age of Indian culture, as I understand it, in that I saw it in Wikipedia.
Okay.
And in Britain is also full of Romans at the moment. This is the year things are going badly for the Romans, generally speaking. In 367 in Britain, there was the Barbarian Conspiracy, or the Great Conspiracy. And that's basically where on Hadrian's Wall, all the soldiers went, nah, we're not into this. Let all the Picts in, and at the same time, a load of Saxons invaded from the west and the southeast as well. So basically, it was just loads of people invaded England, and the Romans, who were supposed to prevent it happening, kind of went on strike.
Oh, okay. What was the conspiracy?
The conspiracy was when the Romans went, we're supposed to stop you coming in. Welcome.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. It wasn't that there was aliens behind it all, or that there was
I think you're overcooking your need of conspiracy there. No, it was conspiracy in that the soldiers let them in when they were really supposed to not.
All right. It's not a classic use of conspiracy word.
Maybe not. There's not enough sinister men in overcoats for you.
Exactly. That's what I was hoping for. The smoking man.
So the 300 to 400 period is basically the last days of Rome.
Okay.
So right at the start, you had an emperor called Constantine the Great. He was the first Roman emperor to adopt Christianity. So you've got Christianity creeping in from the previous Neptune and all of those kinds of guys.
300 years after Christ?
300 years after that, lad. So he's rocking. He's doing well, Christ, at this point. And what Constantine did in 330 is he moved the capital of Rome to Portugal. What was known as Byzantium, which was then renamed to Constantinople. Named after
Istanbul.
Constantine the Great. So,
right.
So what he actually did was he split the Roman Empire. So the Roman Empire was this giant empire, and he went, well, I'm going to move up to Constantinople.
Right.
And then we're going to split it into East Empire and West Empire.
Wait, so the Roman Empire moved to Turkey?
So he had two capitals. It kind of split, basically.
Right.
So it's still the Roman Empire, but there was a Western Empire and an Eastern Empire.
Cool. I had no idea.
Well,
Okay.
this was news to me as well, actually, because basically what happened was then Rome was for a while the capital of the Western Empire, and Constantinople was the capital of the Eastern Empire.
Okay.
And over the course of the next 100 years or so, it really goes downhill for the West. The Western Empire basically collapses over this period.
Classic Rome.
A classic Rome, right?
Yeah.
So in 410, you've got
Original
the sacking
Rome.
of Rome.
Yeah.
The was basically the Visigoths. Basically, there were German tribes roaming all over the map at this point. The Visigoths invaded and sacked and destroyed Rome. And this was a massive shock. This was the first time in 800 years that Rome had fallen to a foreign enemy.
Right.
And this is basically the end of the Roman Empire as we know it. But what I hadn't realised was the Eastern Rome just carried on as you may be familiar with the Byzantine Empire.
Yes.
That's who they were. They just became the Byzantine Empire. So they just
rebranded.
They rebranded and carried on.
Like New Coke.
Right. They're like, well, we're not Rome, but they kept going. So effectively, the Roman Empire didn't really die completely. It just rebranded into the Byzantine Empire in the East.
It evolved and moved on.
Exactly.
It found a new form.
That's crazy, isn't it?
It really
also,
is.
I didn't even realise there was an even earlier... Istanbul is Constantinople. We knew that. I did not realise that Constantinople is Byzantium.
Yeah.
So, all in all, it's a turbulent time for the Roman Empire. And that Roman Empire, in particular the Western Roman Empire, included a little bit of land that we know today as Portugal.
Okay. So Portugal is in the western part of the Roman Empire.
Exactly. It's the most westernmost part, really.
Yeah. Controlled by Rome.
Exactly.
All right. Cool. All right. I'm there. This is good.
Okay, so that's the broader picture.
I'm wearing my toga. I've got my sandals on.
Good. Well, I'm going to take you back a bit first because now I'm going to focus on Portugal.
Okay.
And try and give you a little bit of how Portugal came to be part of the Roman Empire.
Yep.
I mean, obviously, it wasn't Portugal at that time. Originally, that piece of land, that Iberian Peninsula, was populated by Celts.
Wait, what?
So, you normally think of Celts as Scots and Irish.
Yeah, Scottish and Irish.
Celtiberians. They're Spanish-Portuguese Celts.
Celtiberians.
Yeah, Celtiberians.
Okay.
So they're all tribes all over the place like they were...
so had they travelled down then? From Scotland / Ireland?
I'm going to say yes.
Well, I guess so, right?
But yeah, so they started out as Celts, and then chunks of the area were incorporated into the Carthaginian Empire. And that was an empire which kind of had sort of land all around the kind of Mediterranean. So it was based in Tunisia, or Tunis specifically.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a coastal empire. So when you look at the maps of it, it's rather than being one big chunk of land, it's bits of the coast all around the Mediterranean.
Okay.
Like southern Spain and northern Africa. But the Romans and the Carthaginians were in a big fight, and they had fights called the Punic Wars. Essentially, the Roman Empire and the Carthaginian Empire occurred at the same time.
Okay.
So in the Iberian Peninsula, you also had Romans coming in. And there was an Iberian, I'm just going to land briefly on an Iberian called Viriatus. Viriatus is a hero of Portugal. He fought the Romans, basically. He was more or less a rebellion. He created troops that would harry the Romans. They fought with the Romans, and it was he was an early, very good example of guerrilla war.
Okay.
So he did brilliantly. He fought with the Romans between 147 and 139 BC. He was generally considered to be one of the most successful people to have ever opposed the expansion of the Romans.
Wow.
The Romans got him eventually, though.
As they did.
Yeah, how do you think they got that?
Well, how did they catch him?
Yeah.
Reward posters.
Yeah, they cheated,
like the old,
basically, very much
like the Old West.
So Viriatus sent 3 guys to Rome to try and discuss peace terms. And those 3 guys, the Romans said, so if we give you a bucket of cash, will you kill Viriatus? And they said, sure, no problem. They went back to camp and killed Viriatus in his sleep.
Oh, no.
Yep.
Stabbing?
I'm not sure, actually. Let's assume it's a stabbing for now.
It was a stabbing.
And then they legged it. They came back to the Romans. Which
isn't easy with a bucket of gold.
Well, no, they were promised a bucket of gold because this did not end well for them. They went back to the Romans and the Romans said, no, Rome does not pay traitors who kill their chief.
Wow.
And they didn't even get their bucket of cash.
Oh, man. What happened to them?
I don't know. I think they probably just went home very disappointed. Or for more to the point, probably didn't go home to where Viriatus's people were.
Do you think they were killed off?
I don't think they were killed, but I don't think they were welcome home anytime soon.
You got nowhere then. You're not welcome in the Rome and you're not welcome back home.
It didn't end well for them.
No home, no Rome.
Don't kill your chief. Anyway, so the Romans and the Carthaginians are kind of kicking around this part of the world in a period known as the Second Punic War. The Punic War was between Rome and the Carthaginians.
Okay.
And in this war, the Romans basically beat the Carthaginians, kicked them out of Iberia, and that was when they really settled and made Iberia their home. And part of that, they divided it into provinces, and one of those provinces was Lusitania.
Right.
So Lusitania is basically what I'm going to try and talk about today, because Lusitania more or less corresponds with Portugal today, plus a bit more of Spain.
Lusitania. That's a great name.
This is, yeah. Are you familiar? And now this is a bit of a history test for you. What does the name Lusitania bring to mind for you?
I Love Lusitania, the 1950s sitcom.
No, what I was fishing for was the ship, the Lusitania.
Yeah, you wouldn't have got that.
No, that's a shame. The Lusitania was a ship that was sunk in World War One that basically had a load of American tourist civilians on it, and drew America into the war.
Oh, right.
And the Lusitania was named after this province, this Roman province.
The Roman province of Lusitania.
Yeah.
So Portugal is how far from North Africa? Which is where the Carthaginians are.
Not far at all. It's a hop, skip and a jump. It's just across go over from Gibraltar over the strait and onto North Africa.
Okay. All right, cool.
So really roughly the empire that we're talking about is from more or less where Porto today is on the river the river Douro, down to more or less where Lisbon is, to the river Tagus, where the kind of north and south borders of Lusitania. The capital was in Merida, which is part of Spain today.
So the territory wasn't the same then. So the maps that we recognise of Portugal and Spain, it was all kind of just one territory? Or...
Iberia itself, there were different periods, but it was divided into initially two regions, and then over time there was different regions, but Lusitania was fairly consistent, I think.
Okay, fine.
So, I know what you're thinking. Why did the Romans want Lusitania at all?
Yeah, no, that wasn't what I was thinking. I was thinking, how many Frances or how many Lusitanias can you fit in a France?
I think you could get, Lusitania would be about a fifth of a France.
Fifth of a France, okay.
Yeah. Maybe a bit more, maybe a quarter of a France.
Well, quite big.
You only operate in Frances now.
It's our measure.
Right, so I was hoping you'd be wondering why the Romans wanted Lusitania. Could you wonder that for me?
Why? Sorry, what was the question?
Why did the Romans want Lusitania at all?
Because they were expansionists. They liked taking land. So
land on its own isn't really worth anything. The thing they really wanted, well, there were two things they really wanted.
All right.
One was metal. So mining was a major factor that made the Romans want to take.
If you're going to tell me bauxite.
There's no bauxite. Nothing that exciting, I'm afraid.
Okay.
It's the classics of
iron,
copper, tin, gold, and silver.
Okay. I say iron only because of that red ground we were talking about is sort of an iron-based soil, is it not?
Yeah, that does make sense. There is an area of that peninsula which is known as the Iberian Pyrite Belt.
Okay.
So there's a lot of good minerals, to be had over there, Ryan.
Also, those legs that you get with a little knife, and you can cut off thin slices of meat from, like, was it pig legs or whatever?
Oh, the ceiling meat.
Ceiling meat, yeah.
The big legs that dangle.
The legs that dangle that you can then cut into thin slices.
Well,
and port.
There is actually an edible asset that this area had, which I will come to in a moment.
Okay.
It was pre-port, and they did their own wine, but there is obviously one of the great things about Roman occupation. They leave a lot of stuff behind. So in the Castro Verde territory in Portugal, there's a bunch of structures that were left over from the mining of the mining in the Roman times. So you can go and visit those if you're a Roman type tourist.
Oh, well, like they still exist?
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm going to give you a few tourism tips in this session should you find yourself in need of a ruin to look at.
And I do.
So there's about
Love
20
it,
of these little, because they needed fortifications and warehouses because they needed not just mine, but then get the minerals back to Rome.
Yeah, makes sense.
So, Castro Verde for these little fortifications for the mine road.
Yeah.
Now, what is better, Ryan, and this is edible, you've already got this one,
Right.
than gold and silver?
Platinum.
Okay, so I'm going to do the clue again. This is edible, right?
Oh, right.
What's better than gold and silver?
Other than the ceiling ham? Or
Other than the ceiling ham?
I mean, fish.
Oh, yes, you're there. Now, what specifically?
Squid.
Very close.
Mollusks.
Fermented fish guts.
Wait, what?
Right, this is a product called garum. It had
Okay.
various other names, different features, but
Fermented
this was
fish guts.
fermented fish guts. This is a sauce that was
Right.
highly prized
Okay.
throughout the Roman Empire. They find amphorae, which is kind of vases,
Yeah.
clay vases, of
Those ones that don't stand up.
yeah, those exactly the ones that
Almost completely useless.
you have to down in one.
Yeah.
So this is a flavouring, essentially a flavouring sauce, and
Okay.
you make this by you take some fish guts and some blood and some heads, if you're lucky, or maybe the whole fish, depending on what you're trying to make.
Right.
You mix it with salt. You put it in a tank for just a couple of months to ferment in the sun.
Right.
You drain out the liquid, this kind of amber liquid, and bingo, you have got an extremely valuable fishy sauce.
Garum.
Garum. So the Romans would cook with it.
Do people cook with it now?
Well, let me enlighten you briefly on some other things, and then I will tell you. The Romans would cook with it. There were different types of garum. They might mix it with wine or pepper or oil. So there are different flavors of garum.
Like olive oil?
Garum. Yeah, similar to olive oil.
Okay.
There was huge variation. So there were kind of connoisseurs of these things. Again, like olive oil. People would take the finest ones, would fetch huge sums of money, this fermented fish guts.
Yeah.
In the natural history.
Can you just imagine the smell?
Well,
In the sun.
you can.
Fermented.
This is one of the things you will find if you find yourself a garum factory. You will find it is not in town because they were not allowed to have them in town.
No, really?
Because of the
smell.
smelly fish guts.
Oh.
So Olisipo, which is modern day Lisbon, that was known throughout the empire as being a centre for producing garum.
Okay.
Pliny the Elder, I'm sure you know him.
No.
He was very fond of garum. He hawked it as a
is
cure
he?
for. He's a historian, Roman historian.
Okay.
He said garum was a cure for dysentery and, rather diversely, an effective treatment for dog bites.
Wait, what? So you get bitten by a dog, you go see Pliny the Elder, and he says, fermented fish guts, that's what'll fix it.
Pretty much, yeah.
All right. I mean, how am I to know? I haven't tried it.
Exactly. So now,
Work a treat.
next.
Dr. Pliny?
Yes, that's me.
Pliny the Elder?
Yes, better than the younger.
Oh, excellent. I have a few things wrong with me.
Go on.
Well, first off, I have these horrible cankerous sores all over my groin.
Oh, I can see those. For those, you simply need to apply a tincture of garum.
Oh, excellent. Well, what about my horribly fractured leg?
Oh, horribly fractured leg. That is simply the application of a thick paste of garum.
Oh, excellent. And what about my utter blindness?
Utter blindness, well, that's going to take a week each evening taking a draft of, I'm going to say garum.
Oh, excellent.
Is there anything else?
Well, there is one other thing. I have this horribly bland soup.
For that you're going to need 0.5 milligrams of benzodiazepam.
Oh, you sure?
Oh no, you're right. And a little salt. Trust me, I'm a doctor. I know what you're hoping for. Another Roman tourism fact or a destination. The Roman ruins of Troia is one of the largest fish salting production complexes that you can find today.
Okay.
It was made in the
fish.
Right? I know, as a man who hates fish, this is going to really be good for you.
Yeah, I really don't like fish.
So this was a whole settlement. There was 182 processing tanks in this place called Troia.
Okay.
So this was huge production.
Yeah, proper manufacturing.
Yeah.
Industrialized, you might say.
Yeah, you'd find these places tend to be on the coast because that's where A, the fish is, and B, the salt is, but never in town because
Stinky.
it's disgusting.
Yeah. No, fair enough.
So sadly, I know you're going to be disappointed by this, the art of fish gut sauce making, it pretty much died out with the Romans. I found various versions of.
I mean, I'm
this
not
might
disappointed.
be.
I'm not disappointed in that. That's a fine thing.
Well, are you disappointed though? Because part of you wants to have a taste, don't you?
No, not fermented fish guts.
Are you sure?
I'm good. Yeah.
Well, I've got some news for you, Ryan. Today, it turns out that the art of making fermented fish gut sauce does survive in one small town in Italy on the Amalfi Coast.
Okay.
It's a little fishing village called Setara.
Yeah. If you pull some out of that bag and you want me to try some, I'm going to be so unhappy.
Well, you're about to be so unhappy because Colatura di Alici is the modern day equivalent of garum, and I've read that actually it's still known as garum in that town.
No way.
It's quite expensive and difficult to get hold of,
okay.
but I found some, Ryan.
Yay.
This, sir, is a bottle of Colatura di Alici.
Let me describe
fermented
it.
fish gut sauce. Have a smell of that.
No, I want to look at it. You've smelt it already. You couldn't wait, could you?
I had to make sure I could open it.
Oh, okay. Right, okay. So it looks like a whiskey. It's in a small little bottle. It says Calippo, which is a type of ice cream in this country. It's got floating bits in it. Oh, come on. I didn't see that. Oh, my God. Okay, so it looks like fish food or flakes, which ironically is kind of, I guess, what it is.
So I think this is made of anchovies. They have different fish types they make it of. But I think
anchovies
this one,
are fish, right?
the modern one is an anchovy sauce.
Ingrediente. Yep, I don't speak any of that, so can't tell you what's in it. Colatura da Alici. Nice. All right. How am I going to try this? Do I just drink it, neck it?
Fortunately, I saved you a small slice of pizza, which I figured was fairly Roman.
Is that what we were saved for?
Pop some sauce on that and tell me what you think.
You made a big fuss about saving a slice of pizza earlier. All right, I'm going to smell it first. Here we go.
Have a smell.
Oh, here we go. Well, it's okay. So yeah, it's just like a mild fishy smell. It's definitely. I mean, you can definitely smell the fish. Okay. All right. How much do I put on?
You only need a few drops. It's a seasoner. It's not a ketchup.
Turn that around. All right. Go. Oh my God.
There you go. No, that's good. That's good.
All right. Well, I mean, people love this stuff. It's expensive, so I'm really going for it.
Right. This was a highly prized commodity. Let's not forget. Shipped all around the empire.
That's now running free. Okay, here we go. There's some garum, modern day garum.
Yeah, it would be more neutral or more reasonable review if you didn't hate fish.
All right, here we go. This is going to be horrible for people listening to me eat. Yeah, it's delicious.
No, really, So I've tried it earlier, and I found it actually really quite nice. It's
I mean, I don't like fish. So
yeah, it was. You were never going to like it. But
I mean, it is like eating a sweaty fish.
I think that's harsh. It was known for bringing the umami flavour to dishes.
Yeah, I think I'm done with that.
Yeah, that's fair. Now, I do like fish, and I have to say, I think it's delicious. It's fishy, and for non-fish eaters, I can understand why you would struggle. But for me, who does like fish,
for bringing that in.
It is delicious, and who wouldn't be prepared to fight a war for something so fishy good?
I mean, honestly, how broken must your nose be for working in a garum factory?
Yeah, the production process is pretty rough.
You're gonna have to take that away from me. No offense to garum people, but geez, that smells of fish. That's this increasingly smelling of fish. I feel like I've had a bath with sardines. You are eating it.
I really like it.
Yeah. We're gonna have to put a warning at the start of this episode that says there is eating involved. All those people out there that get triggered.
Right, so that's a break. So where were we?
So how long before this taste disappears from my mouth?
I think you probably want to eat some bread or something because it is a pungent and long-lasting flavour.
Yeah. What would they have washed it down with?
Wine.
Yeah. Mead, maybe? Is that a thing?
No, mead is a thing, but it's not really a Roman thing particularly, I don't think. I may be wrong. But
I feel you could get fact-checked on that.
I know, I'm worried about that.
Hello. This is the voice of the internet. The Romans did in fact drink mead. Lucius Junius Moderatus Columella was a prominent writer on agriculture in the Roman Empire. In the year 60 he described a recipe for mead, which read as thus: take rainwater kept for several years, and mix a sextarius of this water with a pound of honey. For a weaker mead, mix the sextarius of water with 9 ounces of honey. The whole is exposed to the sun for 40 days, and then left on a shelf near the fire. If you have no rainwater, then use boiled spring water.
So, I crowbarred in war by saying who wouldn't go to war for fish, but let's actually talk properly about war.
Yeah, we got war, haven't we?
Yeah. So we managed to pick pretty much the only century where there wasn't any war in Lusitania. But that's okay, because what we do have is the Roman army. And if you are a member of one of these regions, you can join the Roman army and see the world and meet interesting people and stab them.
They were pretty open about that, though, weren't they? They were like quite welcoming. Like they'd take over a territory or tribe and then be like, join us. It's totally cool.
Yeah, for sure. So, and also there was incentives to joining the army, because if you join the army, you could become a Roman citizen. Yeah, and that was your ticket to success in the world.
And garum, as much garum as you can have.
So we know that we know that Lusitanians did join the army.
Okay.
There's a tombstone of a guy called Caecilius Avitus.
Right.
He was a deputy centurion, not a full centurion, a deputy centurion.
Deputy to the centurion.
And he's got a tombstone in Chester.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so
what's he doing in Chester?
Well, he joined the army, right? Saw the world.
Oh, saw the world.
So on the one hand, as a Lusitanian, you could join the army as an individual.
Yeah.
But also they had units of Lusitanians in the Roman army. So an auxilia is about 500 people. Okay. And we know that they were fighting in Egypt, some Lusitanians, and some of them took part in Trajan's conquest of Dacia, which was Romania. And this was at the beginning of the 2nd century. Now,
That's quite far away from modern day Portugal.
Romania is a long way away, and probably not.
Egypt is quite far as well.
Egypt's not so bad. It's sort of over the sea a little bit. But I think the interesting part is that they had units of Lusitanians, but it's a little bit misleading because it seems like the Romans didn't actually say, right, this is a Lusitanian auxilius forever. You start as a Lusitanian mob and you recruit there, but then over the generations, actually, you don't really maintain it and anyone can join. Okay. So that it's called a Lusitanian unit doesn't necessarily mean everyone in it was after it's been formed for a while.
Right, okay. So you could have had a mixed bag of people from all over the world.
Yeah, you could have done, but they started as sort of local regiments. I suppose you get something similar here with the sort of Welsh Guards and various other units that actually other people can join.
Makes sense.
And you'd sign up for 25 years, and if you survived, you and your children would become Roman citizens.
Oh, okay. Like the old Roman, if you're a slave, you work your time and then you become a citizen at the end of it.
Do your time and you're their citizen.
You're one of us. Okay. And of course, then you've probably got 5 years before you're dead anyway.
Would you like to know more?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Where's that from? What film's that? Starship Troopers.
Exactly.
Yeah. What are you wearing at this point? Like, is it any different? Like weather-wise, I'm imagining Mediterranean, super hot.
Kind of tunics.
I did
a little bit about the soldiers actually that I'm going to come to. Just one last point about the army, which was that Merida, the capital that I mentioned, that's actually in Spain.
Yeah.
Was actually founded for veterans of a war that was fought in Cantabria. And so it was kind of set up as a military town for veterans.
Oh, no way. What, for the injured and for those that had...
Yeah, it's your reward for getting out and
have a town
to live. Have a whole town.
Have a whole town, just
maybe
yourself.
We should try that.
Squaddy town.
Yeah.
As someone who grew up in a squaddy town, wasn't ideal.
Well, I think this is the other side of the military experience. The people who've seen it all and come back.
Right. Not just a bunch of horny 19-year-olds rampaging around town getting drunk and beating people up.
So, now you're wondering, I can see it in your eyes, what a Lusitanian soldier might look like.
Yeah, I'd love to know what a Lusitanian soldier might look like.
So I do have to caveat all of this, which is that most of the information we have is from probably earlier periods. So I'm now talking generally Roman, rather than necessarily the specific 100 years that we picked, but we'll roll with it.
Okay.
So there's a couple of types of soldier I'll tell you about. You can tell which kind of soldier was which in this example because of the kind of shields they had. So there were caetrati, that's Caetrati, caetrati, or scutati.
Oh. Which, if you had a choice, which one would you be?
I I will be a Scutati, and I'll tell you for why.
Yeah, that's what I was hoping.
So start with the things that are generally the same. Quite light troops, tunics, not heavy armour, quite mobile. They relied on mobility over and above big breastplates and stuff. So essentially they've got a war in a jumper. But your Scutati, well, I'll start with the Caterati actually. The shield is the Catra, and this is a buckler. Do you know what a buckler is?
Nope.
So a buckler is it is a shield,
Right.
but it's a much smaller shield, and it has kind of a little handle on the back. So
Sounds
you don't
like a shield.
strap it to your whole arm like
Oh,
you would
okay.
a big shield. It's like you hold it in your fist.
Oh,
So these are about 60 to 90 centimeters across. So you're talking
Okay.
something quite small.
yeah.
And it's
So a foot and a half.
yeah. So you've got this thing in your fist, and it is a shield, but you can also basically smash people in the face with it. And these guys also carried a sword. It's got a curved sword with a heavy tip. It's called a falcata.
Mm-hmm.
It looks a bit like a kukri. Do you know the Gurkhas have those knives which have that sort of curve on it?
You say that I would know that.
Kind of like a machete.
Okay,
So
right.
it's like a thin. You've got a handle, then it's thin, and then it widens and sort of flares out, and then comes to a point.
Do we know the reason why they're shaped that way?
It's heavier on the end, so it's got that extra weight. So when you whack someone
Chopping.
with it, you've got a sort of axe-like.
Like a hammer,
Heavy
I suppose,
front.
as well.
Yeah,
That hammer effect, so it's going to have more impact.
yeah, and apparently these swords were absolutely very precious in Lusitania, and warriors tended to be buried with them. They had a very spiritual connection to their swords, although I think that's fairly typical for any warrior kind of culture. I think they tend to be prestigious because essentially a hammer is something you have for various other purposes, and someone comes and attacks you and you hit them with a hammer.
Yeah.
A pitchfork, even a spear you go hunting with. But a sword is specifically a combat weapon.
Yeah.
You don't have it for any other reason. So it's kind of almost a
Opening up letters.
very big, very, very big, heavy
letters.
armoured letters, yes. Yeah, it's kind of a luxury because essentially you'd have a spear for hunting, you'd have a bow for hunting, but
Yeah.
why do you need a sword? You don't really.
Yeah.
So I think there's an element of prestige to owning a sword
It's
at
a
all.
bit fallacy, though, as well, isn't it?
Quite fallacy. Well, I'll tell you even more fallacy because, of course,
Men
what
with
is
their
the
penises.
well? What's the Latin for the sheath in which you put your sword?
No idea.
Vagina.
For real?
For real.
No way.
So literally, it means sheath. It's from a sword sheath.
Okay. How about that?
No problem.
Well,
man.
there you go. So it is fallacy.
Yeah, and of these falcatas, the Diodorus, who I suppose makes trainers now,
Yeah.
reported that they were of such great quality, no helmet, shield, or bone could resist its devastating effect.
Oh, my God. No armour.
Yeah, they were tough because they were heavy, they were sharp, they were well made.
Right.
Someone swings one of them at you, get out of the way or lose whatever.
So 500 of those guys running at you,
Yep, quickly because they're not heavily armoured.
right? With a shield.
A little
small
shield that they're
and
gonna
a
punch you in the face
really devastating phallus.
You wouldn't want it, would you?
No.
So those are the Caterati, but I wouldn't be one of them because I would be a Scutati, as you.
Yeah,
as you
that's
asked.
right.
Scutati. This is, as I was saying before, you could tell by the shield. It's a scutum. Scutum is a big oval, strap it on your arm type shield. So imagine a Roman soldier, like the classic Roman soldier. They've got that kind of almost body-sized curved shield.
Yes.
That is a scutum. So these guys are large oval shields. The shields changed over time, so that curved version is a scutum. You can also see sort of flatter ovals for shield, but basically big and held on your arm.
Don't they use those in the big tortoise maneuver that they do, where
Very
they
much
gather
so.
together?
The maneuver known as the tortoise, in fact.
Right, because I'm guessing that the other group of people, which I've already forgotten the name of, with their little shields, no tortoise for them.
Well, and certainly a less impressive tortoise as they're walking forwards with what is essentially a dinner plate held in one hand. So I think that are they trying to do a tortoise?
I think it's more an armadillo.
But as they got close, it was a quick tortoise, that one.
Yeah.
That was a tortoise that relied on speed, I think. And then they might also have used a gladius. You must have heard of a gladius.
I have.
Yes.
It's the sword that gladiators would use.
It's the sword. It's certainly a sword that the Roman army used. It's sort of straight. It's the classic Roman short, straight sword.
Yeah.
Actually believed might well have originated in Lusitania, the Gladius Hispaniensis.
Oh, right.
Short and stabby. I'm going to try you with the flowers.
Light as
Name
well,
a
I
flower
imagine.
that may be gladi related.
Gladioli.
Gladioli have sword-shaped leaved.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, nice. Neat.
So by our time, though, apparently the gladius was, and this again, thank you for Dr. Fear for making this clear, the gladius was giving away to a longer sword called the spatha.
Spatha.
This is a sort of longer, slightly heavier affair.
Okay.
So that's your sword and
I wonder
shield
why.
setup.
Like, is that because people were just getting... Like, I wonder how much you had to adapt your weaponry in those days. Like, people would be like, they're always attacking with the short ones. Let's hit them with long spears. And then they can't get us with their short swords. And so they're like, right, we lost that battle. Let's adapt our swords to make them longer and heavier. So
we're going to need a longer sword.
Yeah. Yeah. I wonder how much that happens in over the course of hundreds of years of war. These people are adapting all the time to new weapons and counterattacks and such.
Yeah, they have to. I mean, and also they have to, but they also have to presumably make everyone one of these swords, right? So the classic military question of I need to equip everyone.
Yeah.
I'd like them to have good stuff, but there's an awful lot of them. So the lowest price contractor wins.
Yeah. You were saying that metal was like a big plus point for the area. The Romans were interested in it for that, along with fish.
It was the more copper and gold and silver, though.
So you're not going to be making swords out of copper, are you? It's quite
those days are long
malleable.
gone. They're long gone.
Yeah.
I've got more weapons. Now, if you're anything like me, you don't want to be anywhere near your enemy.
You sound like you're in some car park somewhere. Got more weapons.
Yeah, do you want to...
Weapons.
Can I interest you in
Gladioli.
a phalarica or phalarica? This is what the Roman pilum, the javelin, is based on, or may well have been based on. So a lot of these weapons that we think of as classically Roman seem to have originated in the Iberian Peninsula.
Nice.
This was a heavy javelin, little iron head, like a spear essentially. It had a sharp tip. I don't understand why anyone describing a weapon that was a spear needs to describe it as having a sharp tip. I'm not sure.
Well, yeah.
Blunt.
I mean, I'm sure there are blunt tip weapons.
Maybe.
But yeah.
But apparently these were used, they bind combustible material, straw and stuff, I would imagine, to the shaft of the weapon and basically chuck these spears on fire at you.
Oh, wow.
Which would be, I suspect, quite unsettling as you're in your tortoise and you're hit by a spear and it's on fire. There are so many ways in which one of these coming at you is bad news.
Yeah, it's not good.
And they'd also sometimes use spear throwers to make this burning, sharp, heavy projectile even more dangerous.
And those are like those curved sticks, right, that you use to throw tennis balls for dogs.
Dog's tennis ball chucker, yeah.
Dog's tennis ball chucker.
There was another version of the spear. This one was a single piece of iron, so about 1.5 meters to 2 meters in length.
Iron's heavy.
Just solid iron with a thick bit in the middle so that you can actually hold it. And that sounds pretty nasty, but then it also adds some hooks so that once it's stabbed you, you can't get it out.
Pull it back out. So you got to push it all the way through.
So this is basically super heavy and pointy. This is an armor piercing round, essentially.
So how long was this?
About 1.5 meters, 2 meters.
I mean,
About
that's
your
a
height.
really long bit of iron.
Just iron.
To hit you with. I mean, that would just knock you to the floor and you're out at that point, aren't you?
Yeah, and then it's hooked into you as well.
Who's throwing that? I could probably throw that like maybe a foot. Essentially called
practice,
dropping
right?
it. Maybe just up close.
You could poke with it, but I think they also threw them.
Wow. That's like an iron railing, like from a fence.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? Just throw in that.
Let's go out later and see what we can pick up. So, look, I'm playing Iberian Warrior.
And you're getting that, and then imagine getting hit, and then, like your medic comes running up to you, and they're like, well, like, I don't have anything for...
Oh, that looks nasty.
And that'll pull through your body. There's nothing I've got.
Has it got hooks? Yep, it's got hooks. So...
Dabba-garum?
How you... Yeah, fetch my fish sauce. I know just the thing.
Pliny the Elder told me this will fix this down a tree.
If it's good for dog bites, right, it's got to be good for hooked spear
metal
wounds.
filings.
So the last thing I've got to talk about is horses.
Oh, horses. Cool. I love horses.
Right? So cavalry was a thing. So this is my war connection. And Lusitanian horses were really highly valued. They were considered fabulous horses. So much so that they were known as being sired by the wind.
Earth itself given birth to these horses.
Right. Well, the mares would be made love to by the zephyrs, the west wind, or whichever wind it was. And then out would emerge these super fast, super lovely horses.
That's very cool.
Yeah, for sure.
I was just thinking, the film Gladiator, Russell Crowe's character in it, I think he's from Iberia.
Oh, could be.
Don't they call him the Portuguese or something? They probably wouldn't, because that didn't exist then.
They might have called him the Lusitanian.
Yeah, I feel like maybe they did.
We'll have a fact check on that.
Hello, this is the voice of the internet. In the film Gladiator, the character of Maximus Decimus Meridius was said to be from the Iberian, Spanish, province of Tarraconensis. He was therefore known to his bloodthirsty fans as the Spaniard.
All right.
So a guy called Arsenio Raposo Cordeiro says in a book that he thought that it was possible, I'll be honest, I don't really believe this, but I'm going to share it because if it's true, it's interesting, that the myth of the centaur was inspired by the Iberian horse because they were so at one with their riders that it appeared that the person and the horse was one thing.
Part horse, part man.
Yeah, I'm going to choose to believe that's true.
No, I love that. That's cool.
So charioteering was very popular in the area. There's a remnants of circuses that were the
big arenas where they'd go round with blades on their wheels.
Exactly. So
I bet that was a Hollywood thing. I bet that never happened.
But they were rough old affairs by all accounts. So it was 4 horses, 12 chariots in a race. People wanted to sit on the bend basically because that's where all the crashes happen.
Really?
Yeah. So those were the top seats to see people mangled in their chariots. And I'm going to give a shout out to a very famous Portuguese, or a very famous Roman Portuguese, a bit before our time. He was born about 104 AD.
Okay.
In Lamacum, which is in modern day Portugal. This guy's name was Gaius Appius Diocles.
Right, cool
name.
He
was a charioteer, but he wasn't just any charioteer. He was the man in chariots. He went up through the
Lewis Hamilton.
ranks.
He was the
He
Michael
was
Schumacher.
way beyond these people that you've named are as paupers compared to the money that this guy made. Diocles made, they think, the equivalent of over $15 billion in his career as a charioteer, just from winnings.
Just from winning?
Just from winning.
That's not possible.
No, well, this is
How many races must you have to do?
So he lived until 42 years of age, which apparently is quite unusual for a charioteer. He retired. He didn't die on the circuit.
Right.
So
you're saying I still have a chance to become a
you
famous
do. It's not too
charioteer?
late. His signature move was to drive around with the other chariots and then do a big sprint at the end and just nick the victory at the last minute. Okay. Super popular with the crowds. He changed teams. There was apparently 4 teams of chariots, so not unlike the manufacturers in Formula One.
Okay, yeah.
So there's a red team, a blue team, and a green team, and another colour team.
Yeah.
And he moved between various teams during his career.
So they paid more, perhaps, depending on.
Well, the thing I read was that actually he started with the sort of one of the more less popular teams.
Yeah.
He then moved on to, I think it was the green team, which was the super popular one. But then actually he did a canny move, which was he moved teams again so that he'd be the best driver in that team.
Okay.
So he kind of went to a lesser team so he could be the standout driver.
Yeah, footballers do this as well. Like, there'll be footballers that when they hit a certain point, they'll go to a slightly lesser team because they'll still be the best player at that team.
Right, and this is what this guy did. He then also was just super popular because his style of racing was so exciting because he was always pipping people at the post.
Yeah.
And he also didn't die, which was really good for his earnings. And like I say, he retired and lived to a ripe old age and lived happily ever after, 42.
A ripe old age, is it?
Well,
you got a long life
relative.
after 42. Shut up.
But that's it. He earned 15 billion quid as a chariot driver. And he was a Portuguese.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Wonder where all that money went.
Probably the kids blew it.
Yeah, probably, right? But I wonder what the impact of that was. I mean, that doesn't just disappear, right?
I think he set up a villa and
Yeah, but like,
I mean, how much? 15 billion quid. You've got to spend it on something.
You'd think there would, right, but you'd think there would be echoes of that somewhere, like a town named after him or something.
Just one bottle of the best garum.
Right. I guess you got 2,000 years for that to pass, or slightly less, 1,500, about that.
Well, bear in mind also, this is the end of Rome. So,
Yeah.
Oh, actually, no, he was in 104 AD, wasn't he? So, but you can rise and fall in these kind of areas, can't you? Someone takes a dislike to you and suddenly you've been killed.
I wonder how, I mean, can you imagine all the stories that, just aren't written down? All the races and stuff that were neck and neck and his rivals and all this sort of stuff. Like, there's a whole...
Well, yeah, so that's exactly what I suffered from, all the things that weren't written down.
Yeah, yeah.
So that, whilst that isn't war, obviously chariots are a warlike thing. That's my sort of stretchy reason for bringing Diocles in, but also as a shout out to one of the greatest sportsmen of all time.
Absolutely. But no, it definitely is. Like the conflict between those 4 different teams
is a form of war. Thank you for permitting me that.
There must have been, at some point, the final ever chariot race. Because chariot races don't happen now, I'm guessing, outside of like recreation pieces. People that sort of like try and redo them.
Yeah, that's true.
So there must at some point have been the final chariot race. I wonder if they knew it was the final chariot race, or they were just like, what did it just fade
that winner
out over time?
He's still the champion.
He's still the champion. Right?
He must have been 90 years of age, just about to die, going, yes, I did it. Reigning champion.
I wonder which one. I want to know whether it was red, blue, green, or the other one. When they stood on their podium, to celebrate their win, did they get given a bottle of garum that they'd then like shake up and spray over everyone?
The cost of this one's anything to go by. That's the size of a thimble. Enjoy that. Don't shake it.
It's spraying it out.
Also, sprayed with garum. Like, oh, I'm so fishy.
Everyone's seagulls just sitting around the edges of like the circus.
So that is everything I found out about Portugal. Again, a big shout out to Andy Fear. Thank you so much. He gave me so much good information and pointers. It was fantastic.
Where's he from?
He is from the University of Manchester.
Shout out to the University of Manchester and Andy Fear.
Thank you.
Awesome. Nice one. That was fantastic. What a little window into a fascinating world of the past. 300 to 400 AD. Imagine. So there's you with your, what was it? Scutum shield. Scutum.
I was carrying my scutum to market, yes.
And you're wearing your tunic. You're drinking your garum. Watching the chariots. You're having a ripe old time. Yeah, living in your little vet village. Not vets as in like animals,
Veterans,
but veteran village.
That could have been a mix-up, couldn't it? So I brought my kitten. I understand that you're all vets. Yeah.
Wrong kind of place. This was great. Thank you very much. I really enjoyed this one.
Excellent. Well, I thoroughly enjoyed researching it, and
let's hope you get a more modern one next time.
I'm looking for something at least with 4 digits.
I love it. I want an old one. I want my next one to be an old one.
Yeah, be careful what you wish for. So.
I want to go ancient.
Going back, way back.
I want to be reading tablets.
Well, there is a prehistory one in there.
Well, I really hope that I get that one.
Well, should we have a look?
Let's do it. Let's hit the doors later.
All right, hit that button, Ryan.
I really hope it's something that's got horrible foods that you can try.
I accept your challenge.
What foods don't you like?
Delicious sweets.
Yeah, that famous delicious sweet country. I hope I get that one now. Okay, here we go. Let's hit the doors later.
I could have stabbed you with a spear.
Well, you could have brought a 2 meter long.
You had war and you're complaining about eating fish. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, what I'm saying is now it's war. Okay, here we go.
Now I'm really worried it's going to be sex.
Sex or war?
Okay, let's see what we got. And the country is?
Turkey.
Turkey, okay.
We were talking about Turkey in this episode.
Constantinople.
Very good. Okay, and the years is 3000 BC to 2000 BC.
You said you wanted something old. Now you've got it.
Okay.
I'm so happy.
I'm a little nervous, I'll be honest. 3000 BC, 5,000 years ago. Okay. Well, I mean, look, it's 1,000 years. Something must have happened between 3000 BC and 2000 BC in Turkey.
I'm really hoping for some hilarious topic now. And the topic is...
Science.
Science, that's okay. I think you can twist that.
What do you mean twist it? I don't need to twist it. There was all sorts of scientific breakthroughs 3,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago.
The wheel.
I think you're being very dismissive of a subject that's going to be entirely fascinating, and I can't wait to regale you with facts about Turkey 5,000 years ago and science specifically.
I'm excited.
All right, Pete, thank you very much once again.
Absolute pleasure.
Good work.
Ryan. Thank you very much.
All right.
So I guess we'll see you guys out there next week on...
History happened everywhere. How much garum can you drink before you pass out?
In your case, I think another 3 drips would have done you.
I date your neck all that.
Challenge not accepted. I like it.
Yeah.
But not as a drink.
Not enough to neck it. Would you do a shot of it?
A shot of it?
Yeah, would you do a tablespoon?
Well,
how is it any
nice.
different than like cod liver oil?
Well, it's also a thing I wouldn't do a shot of. So not that different, I suppose. They have that in common.
You're so boring.
So how did we do? Did you spot any mistakes? Was there something fascinating we missed? Let us know by emailing us at hhepodcast@gmail.com. Or you can get us on Twitter at HHE Podcast.
It's confusing, isn't it?
It's
not
is.
2 ats.
It really is. There's just one
at.
at, everyone.
I think everyone knows.
Yeah.